Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crooked Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. Say, man, get on the phone and call somebody. Push the share button on the video and tell them the great one is in the building. I am the 5-star general.
So hello, everybody. It is me, Demetra K, and I am sitting here with Donovan, the recovering Democrat Sadiq. And I know what you just saw. That was Mr. Gerry Monroe saying that it is the war zone, but of course it is the Demetra K show. Now, of course, unfortunately, word has been put out, I would say unofficially, because it has not come from a family member per se, but it's, good confirmation out there that Gerry Monroe has passed on. He's passed on. I do not know any details. I just know that he is no longer here. So first off, I want to say my condolences along with Donovan to the family of Gerry Monroe and everybody that loved and cared for Gerry. So we want to spend today, and that's why I called it a special edition of Gerry's War Zone, because the War Zone was his show. And of course, you guys know that Donovan and I also sat on the War Zone with Gerry for about a year. So, we're going to talk about our time with Gerry. Also, we like to open up the link to those on this show every time that we're live to speak. So we also want to allow that opportunity for anybody who want to click the link. It is on YouTube. If you want to briefly come up and, maybe say something about Mr. Monroe. And forgive me if it seems like I am struggling. You guys know I hardly ever do that. But when I got the news this morning, it was very shocking, to say the least, right? So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how I came to know Gerry, Donovan as well. And of course, I'm going to read you guys' comments in the comment section. I see a lot of people who knew and love Gerry. So hello to everybody. I'm going to try to acknowledge everybody. But I just want to say that I came to know Gerry. It was right before the pandemic hit, and I actually was introduced to him by that of Al Jackson. Now, Al was friends with him on Facebook, and he says, "You got to see this guy. He's hilarious, but he keeps it real. He's basically letting people have it and stuff." So the very first time that I interacted with Gerry, it was actually when he was talking about the bonnet situation and parents wearing clothing they should not be wearing into the high school. I don't know if y'all remember that story where mom complained because I guess they kicked her out of the high school and she went in there with kind of a nightgown on and a bonnet. And so Gerry, he was defending the mom and able to do that. And so I got on there. Of course, I said, well, I disagree, blah, blah, blah. Had a little bit of a spirited conversation in the comment section. Then he reached out to me and asked me, would I do a show with him? And I said, well, respectfully, at the time, I was already doing a show with Donovan because, Donovan and I have been doing this for a long time. But I said, invite me on the show every once in a while, and I come on. That didn't happen until the pandemic happened. The pandemic happened, everything got shut down, right? Everything shut down. Everybody's working from home. And so therein lied the opportunity to do the show. So then I brought my good friend here, Donovan, on, and a lot of you guys who follow me actually learned of me via Gerry in the War Zone, and the same thing with Donovan. And so, of course, we did the War Zone there with Gerry. We interviewed a lot of people. Of course, y'all who have seen the show with us, y'all know that it was oftentimes that Gerry and I did not agree. In fact, y'all saw us, have some verbal fisticuffs a couple of times, but that's okay. Not agreeing is, it's fine. So needless to say, me and Donovan exited the show. Of course, you guys know that it got to the point to where Gerry and I we just really didn't see eye to eye. So there went that. Then, of course, after that, I made appearances on the show with Gerry. He asked me would I do a show with him regarding certain topics, and I said, yeah, sure, you know. And the last time I did a show with Gerry was that when Pastor Thaddeus Matthew was on, and it seemed like I ended up interviewing Thaddeus by myself, but nevertheless, Gerry invited me on the show. And so from time to time, even, you know, after we did the War Zone, and in between the times that I would do the show with Gerry, he would call, you know, we just chop it up about certain things that were going on. He'd ask my opinion. I give it to him, whether, you know, he liked the opinion or not. That's just kind of where it was. But I also want to say that I've never met Gerry in person. Believe it or not, I've never met Gerry in person, never went to any of the events, anything like that he was doing. I only knew him online and over the phone. So I again want to say that I was very shocked and taken aback to hear of his passing. Of course, we want to get into, you know, the advocacy that Gerry was into and all of that. And so, Donovan, I'm going to give it to you, and then I'm going to jump in the comment section, and then we're going to go from there.
Yes, again, welcome to the special edition of the Gerry Monroe War Zone. And I want to call that because, you know, that was his show, as Demetra said, and big shock. And the funny thing is, I'm 3 hours behind. I'm 2 hours behind Houston here in California, and I kept getting these texts and messaging, and it was from you guys. It was from you guys that used to see us on the War Zone, and I guess you guys were like, "Oh, Donovan, you know, you see this," and you know, from adding on. So he had a lot of impact on a lot of people's lives because I was getting all of them. Demetra finally contacted me, then I contacted her back because it was like, you know, because I wasn't sure if it was a hoax or they're just, you know, playing around because, you know, Gerry gets involved in a lot of stuff out there. His hands are in a lot of stuff. So I'm like, oh, they're just probably just, you know, doing what they do. But condolences to his family. Like I said, I was totally shocked. But and I'm going to say this respectfully, I'm not surprised in that sometimes in this life we get to choose how we're going to live it and how we're going to go out. You know, Gerry had been sick for a very, very long time. He had some medical conditions for a long time, but that didn't stop him from smoking. That didn't stop, you know, from doing what he wants to do. And that's what life is supposed to be about. You know, we sometimes Gerry and I would have a conversation and we'd talk about like health and stuff like that. You know, he did what he wanted to do and he went out the way he wanted to go out. Unfortunately, the thing is, we don't know when we're going to go out. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, what day it is, what, if we all could know that, we would all be doing deathbed confessions to get into heaven, right? But, you know, as a person, I thought he was very funny. He was very direct. The biggest thing that I would have to say that really worried me, and this is one of the first things I said to Demetra when we were talking about it earlier this morning. I said, this man has left a legacy. And unfortunately, in our community, we rely so much on one person doing all the heavy lifting. And then when that person's done, that's it. So a big question that I'm concerned about is moving forward, who is going to take his place? And what I mean is place, because you can never replace a person because that's that person. They're very unique. Who is going to step up and represent for the kids of Houston and advocate for those kids of Houston? Who's going to advocate for the what is it, 5th Ward down there? The 5th Ward. Who is it that's going to talk truth to power? Who's going to do that? And this is what we mean about training and getting the next person up and ready to go in case the flag bearer falls. There's got to be somebody that's going to pick up the ball or the baton and carry it a little farther. So a big question that I have, and it just, like I said, my condolences to his family, but to me, it's his legacy. It's his legacy. Who is going to move the ball forward and keep this man's legacy alive? And the thing is, as long as you remember somebody, they're never really gone, as long as you remember them. So that's the question that I had. That was one of the big issues that I had, because I don't think this man dedicated all of these years advocating, fighting, and doing that just to check out and say, okay, that's it. I'm done. That's it. If at a time in the world that we need a Gerry Monroe, a 5-star general, it's right now. It is right now. Long story short, I witnessed in my district another eviction of a single mother and her family. We need a 5-star general now more than ever. And my question to Houston and all over the United States, who's going to fill that void?
Absolutely. So I'm just saying, hello to everybody on here, and I will continue to do that. So who else came on here? Curtis, how you doing? And Michael, how are you? You say, I'm sorry for the loss of Gerry Monroe. Those who supported him should learn about work-life and balance. Okay. Brian, how you doing? He says he was bigger than life. We don't live forever. So he set up a purpose before he left. Job well done, real soldier. And Mimi, you say third ward. Yes, and you're gonna. He said exactly what I was thinking. But he actually advocated not just in Texas, but outside of Texas as well, because y'all know he would go to Michigan, Louisiana, just wherever there was a need. Of course, during the George Floyd protests and things like that, he would leave here. And went to Michigan. Was it Michigan? Wisconsin? Minnesota. Went to Minnesota, and he stayed there for quite a while, helping them with the protests and things like that. So, Gerry he
helped Tamir Rice's mom.
Yeah, we even had her on the show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, hey, Marcus says, Rip King, God bless you, Brother Monroe. Absolutely. And Monet, how you doing? A lady, how are you? Let's see here. Hello, Brother Easy says hello. Donovan, D. Donovan family. Sorry to hear about Gerry. Dude was a go-getter. Yes, indeed. Yes, Minnesota, Jennifer. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Hey, Moni, how are you doing? Yes, Sequel the Miles right around the corner. So Mimi say yes. Right. So I just kind of wanted to piggyback on what Donovan was saying. I want to say this too. One thing we do know about Gerry is he was very controversial, okay? Very controversial. And I don't think that's a secret. I'm not telling on Gerry. Gerry was very controversial, but you know what? That's how a lot of people came to know Gerry, including myself, because I never, heard about Gerry. Now, mind you, I started sitting on the war zone when I was in California, right? Then I moved to Texas, so I was on the war zone in California, and I would hear and actually learn about a lot of things that was going on in Houston via Gerry's, I would say, reporting, because he did, the hood, CNN, and all those things. So that's how I learned about a lot that was going on. But Gerry was controversial. And, like I said, I'm not going to lie to kick it yet. Gerry said some things that I didn't agree with a lot. Did some things I didn't agree with a lot. But one thing I would never take away from Gerry, I would never take away the love that he had for his city and the love that he had for the children. As he said, he was the best educational advocate in the state of Texas, right? And I don't think anybody's really going to dispute that. Gerry would go in, kick the doors down and get the job done. He advocated on behalf of a lot of students, a lot of teachers and admin and just different people in the educational system that was not getting their fair share. And so to me, it's a mighty loss. It's a mighty loss for that. And as Donovan said, as we were talking early about it this morning, Donovan and I were on the same page. The question we had is, well, who is going to step in the shoes of Gerry and advocate for the children? Who's going to advocate in the educational system in Texas, right? Now, when we were on the show, I would always tell Gerry, when he was out there in different places, whether he was on a bullhorn in front of somebody's house or at the school, whatever it was he was doing, I would always tell him, it's a shame that it's just you out there. Where is everybody else? Where is everybody else to go out there and ride with you? Now, I know on some occasions there was some people who would go out there with Gerry, but I would say, just from my knowledge, I could be wrong. I would see him by himself out there. And I'm like, something ain't matching up here. Because in the comment section, you had a lot of people, yeah, whatever Gerry was doing, whether you liked it or not. Yeah, Gerry, 5-star, we're with you, you go. You know, all this, he's getting all these accolades. But when it came time for boots on the ground, it was usually just Gerry. And I would say that, I'm on record saying that there should be more people out there with you. There should be. Because I know, being doing this for a while myself, the comment section reads a lot differently than real life. Because the comment section, you know, and I'm not being disrespectful to anybody, I'm just kind of giving it context. And I've been in the comment section myself a time or two, so I know it's easier to, you know, be thumb thugging up in there. I ain't saying I never did. I did a time or two in my life, maybe 10. So I know it's easy to do that in the comment section. But when it comes time to real life, we usually get that, what happened was, I would have, but this happened. You know what I mean? And so this really, I really want this to be a show about who will carry what Gerry was building and who would carry that to the finish line, to whatever finish line that is, right? Because we know the work that Gerry was doing in the educational system was a job that did not have an end, right? It was something that was ongoing, because there are children and admin teachers everywhere that needed the bat signal, if you will, of Gerry. And most of the time, Gerry could do it. For what I understand, he would show up, right? Now, as Donovan said, we know that Gerry had some ailments. There's a couple times on the war zone where he would be doing the show from his hospital bed, you know? So Gerry, he still showed up when he should have been laid up, right? When he should have been laid up with his feet up, resting himself, Gerry showed up. And I would venture to say, I hadn't spoken to Gerry probably a month, you know, as of this point, but I would venture to say that he left here with some work on his desk, whether it was homework, whether it was advocating for somebody. I'm sure he had a lot of stuff that he needed to do. Of course, you guys know Gerry was pursuing his degree in criminal justice in hopes of becoming a lawyer. So he had a lot of things that he was working on. But the question is, who's next? Who is going to pick up the baton and run with that to make sure? Because see, this is the thing. We always have all of these condolences and these memorandums and these, oh, I remember, blah, blah, blah. But if anybody is really interested in carrying on the legacy of Gerry Wayne Monroe, then you will actually carry on the work that he was trying to do. Of course, you guys also know he tried to hold politicians accountable and, you know, things like that. So who is going to step up? Does the work go unfinished? Does it just go away to everybody go back to their lives? And you know what I mean? Or does somebody, and I'm not even speaking of just one person. This somebody, it could be a legion of people. Does that legion step up and say, all right, we got it from here, Gerry, 5-star general, as many people affectionately called him? Who will do that? So I'm going to jump into this comment section. You guys, the link is open on YouTube. If you want to click the link to come up and say a few words about Gerry, I would ask that at first you show me your face so that I can make sure it's you, because sometimes we having some trolls doing some really stupid stuff. And then, yeah, come up and, you know, say what you want to say. I know it just kind of happened today. For those of you guys who are coming on right now, Gerry Monroe has gone on. He has passed. He passed away. So that's what we're talking about here.
And before you get into the comments, really, really big, you can say a lot of things about Gerry Monroe. You like him, you hate him, he's funny, he's that. I mean, he was all of that. Me and him were kind of kindred spirits in our way of going about advocating for our cities and things like that. I'm a type of kick you in the face type person. He's kind of like that as well. But one thing I can say about him, and we're going to talk man stuff. I see Al is in the comments over here. And for all you fellas, one thing I would say that I loved about the 5-star he loved his Yates football and Hall of Fame stuff. I mean, he was, always telling that story of being that kid that went against all the odds and was on the crack football team. Him playing lineman as being as girthy as he is, but he was a short guy, but girthy and stuff like that. So he always represented for the Yates Lions and had his shirts and his jerseys. And never forget, though, he also was a lyricist. He was a hardcore rapping lyricist. Brad Jordan, all of those boys, they all started down there together in Houston, which a lot of music came from. I think he had a couple of albums that he put out when he was down there as well. So, he's a local legend down there. And my concern and my worry is now that he has gone on to the ancestors, is that all he's going to be? A legend? Or will he be a legacy? And what's the difference between a legend and a legacy? A legacy continues. A legacy continues. A legend is, I don't know if it's true or not. We don't know. That is my biggest concern. So big up for to Gerry, because like I said, and he would always talk about that football, and that was his passion. He loved where he came from. He loved the sport he played. And, if I was a young person looking at the passion that this adult had in regards, it would inspire me to be as great as I could be. And, he loved his mama. He loved his mama, so he was a great man. He was a great man. So legacy. I want to see what his legacy is going to be. And yeah, he's got children and stuff, but biological children. But we're going to talk about the children, the legacy of the children of where he came from that he fought so hard for. Are we just going to let it die? Are we just going to let it die? That's what we got to think about.
I heard your cat in the background. Miss Jalen, how are you doing, sweetheart? You say, and by the way, I don't know if you guys, know or not, this is Gary's daughter. So my condolences to you in the deepest way that I can express. But you make a good point. It says he doesn't have a successor. Hopefully people will become their own advocates and stop relying on other human beings. There's only so much one body and mind can take. And I also want to put up, you also said, we all need to be knowledgeable enough to carry on the legacy of others until that happens. These advocates will wither away and their work goes with them. And you know what? I'm glad that you said that, because that's also what Donovan and I were discussing earlier on the phone, in that it does make it hard for people to advocate, because it is a very thankless job. It is a thankless job. As I said, your father was out there a lot of times by himself, but it was so many people, on Facebook and wherever else, advocating. Yeah, you can do it, Gerry. But oftentimes he was out there by himself. And as you said, it is hard. It's hard every way. It takes a toll on people who are out there advocating mentally, physically, financially. It takes a major toll. And a lot of times you're out there by yourself. You got your own thoughts. You got your own life going on, and you're trying to help people. But a lot of times people really don't show up for you, right? And I was having this conversation with, I'm going to bring you up, Al, and I'm going to put you on mute for just a second. Okay. So people, they don't realize how hard it is for the advocate to really be out there by themselves, really trying to get stuff done. And it does take a toll on you. So you're absolutely right. Mr. Al Jackson, what say you, brother?
Hey, how are y'all doing?
We're doing well. What's on your mind?
Well, a little bit of everything. I'll say this much. One of the things that I really liked about Gerry, other than his comical wit, is that he was very serious about everything that he said, whether you liked it or not. All the people that went to Jack Yates, I think he was y'all's best alumni because he, even at the time when the George Floyd thing was going on and there was a mass parade downtown. Now, keep in mind, that was in the middle of the pandemic. Gerry was against it because we were supposed to be separating. That big parade that had the mayor and the chief, Gerry wasn't for that. And Jack Yates, for people that don't know, it's in a dilapidated neighborhood in the 3rd Ward of Houston. Gerry didn't go for all the spray painting on the buildings and the potholes. He hated that kind of stuff, where a lot of those alumni went for it. Gerry was very funny. It was times he would tell the guys that stop dating women that weren't for you, and vice versa for the women. It was one particular day, y'all did a show where Gerry was running for some school board, and it was on a Saturday. And y'all asked him questions for 3 hours. Gerry answered every last one. Every last one. And that's when I knew at that point that, hey, he was really about helping the children and even the old folks. The war zone that y'all did, even for me, I didn't give a damn about watching Monday Night Football or WWE Raw. I had to see it because you didn't know what Gerry was going to say, what you three were going to say. And to me, that was the best part about Monday. So kudos to y'all, for, I think that y'all took on the mantle with Gerry. You're doing it now. So much love and respect to Demetra and Donovan. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Al, for coming on. See us again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He was running for school board, and for like a couple of hours, we were just asking him questions off the cuff, and he was answering it. And to the best of his ability. I mean, some people maybe you didn't like his answers, but he gave an answer, and it wasn't a political answer. Well, the numbers and that. No, he was like straight out, put it to you in a manner that you can understand. And if you're asking me, I'm out in California out here, and I say this whenever I go to my city council meetings. I always bring this up. What is this city going to do when I'm not here anymore? I want to go do something else or whatever. We had so much corruption in my city. The biggest FBI bribe in U.S. history happened in my city. It's still going on to this very day. The politicians are doing what they're going to do. Houston, what are you going to do if Sheila Jackson Lee becomes mayor? And we know that chick is corrupt. Who's going to call her out? Who's going to, watchdog these people in what they're doing with your tax dollars? I think Houston took a very, very big loss in regards to Gerry being gone. And I love Dr. Candace Matthews. I love her, but people got to understand this. Candace Matthews and Gerry Monroe, they're on 2 different paths to the same destination. So she's already doing her advocacy. So, so a lot of people might be saying, well, there's Candace Matthews. She's been doing her advocacy on a different route. You've got to replace the route drivers where they are, or the supply chain gets affected, right? So that means the kids are going to be affected. The city's going to be affected. Candace Matthews is doing what she can do. That's fine. But if you take all of Gerry's responsibilities and put it on Dr. Matthews, how long do you think Dr. Matthews is going to last? How long?
Absolutely. Hello to everybody that came on. And Jaylene says, I think many believe that becoming an advocate or a philanthropist is difficult. It's very accessible form of protesting and lobbying that we have. Start off in your community network, etc. You're absolutely right. And I love that you said that. Again, you guys, please click on the link and come, say some words about Gerry, how you knew him or anything like that. But you're right, because a lot of times people think they got to put on the cape, right? And then they got to fly around the world and save everybody. But we said this a lot on the war zone as well. Have you saved the people in your own home? What about your neighbors, the people you go to church with, at the family reunion, right? You don't have to go out and start, large and, get on an international platform. Do it with the people you know. Because a lot of times we live in a house with people who just don't know, right? But you'll find that with a lot of advocates, that they are out there advocating for everybody else except for the people they can touch. I used to do sales for a very long time. And in whatever sales job that I did, they would always tell you, start with your warm market first. Your warm market are the people you know, the people you can say, hey, how you doing? How was dinner last night? I enjoyed myself. Hey, by the way, I started this new business. I want you to really check it out, right? That's your warm market, the people that you have a direct connection and influence over. And so, Jalen, you're right. It's not hard to do. The thing is, people just, they don't do it, right? Let somebody else do it. I'm going to wait. Oh, I really don't have what it takes. But it really takes seeing a wrong and doing what you can to make it right. Even if what you can is to say something about it, right? To get the ball rolling. You may not be the one, because I always say, I'm not a boots on the ground type of advocate, right? My job is to do what I'm doing, right? But that takes courage as well, because there's a lot of people who will not even get on the internet and say, hey, this sucks. This is terrible. This is what needs to be fixed. This is wrong, or whatever. A lot of people won't even do that, right? But whatever it is that you can do, whatever talents and gifts you possess to help bring justice to something, then do that, whatever it is, right? So again, and Donovan, I really do love what you said about the two paths in regards to, Dr. Candace and Gerry. We know that there was a rift there. I purposely chose not to get involved at all, but she has her own path. She has her own things that she's out there doing. Regardless if we like it or not, Candace is out there making an indelible mark on the city of Houston, and even outside of that, she's advocating for the things she's advocating for. Just like Donovan said, Gerry was advocating for the things that he advocated for. But we cannot place that all upon her, because then you know what happens to her. So we all got to shoulder that burden, and seeking justice is a burden. And I tell you what, it's a burden that a lot of people don't sign up for. It's not a burden somebody says, you know what, I just can't wait to wake up to the day of just shouldering everybody's problems. Because when you're an advocate, do you know how often your phone rings? I'm not even an advocate like that, but my phone rings a lot, or an inbox or a text or something, right? Because y'all know, not only do I have this platform, I sit on the African Diaspora News channel where there's over 1.5 million subscribers, right? And so with that, I have a lot of people wanting me to do this story, that story, that story. So it does become overwhelming. So I cannot imagine being a Gerry or a Dr. Candace, where people expect for you not only to get the memo, but they want you to show up. I want you to help my family. And it's like, golly, you know how many people called me yesterday, wanted me to help their family, but somehow the families that they helped, those were the lucky ones. Those were the lucky ones that got a Gerry to show up and take on their burden. So we got to be mindful of what we do to our advocates. It's a selfless job, but it's selfish for the rest of us to want to, hey, I got a problem, and I want you and only you to fix it. As I just tell you what happened, then I want you to go and put the cape on, and I want you to go fly and try to make it right. I'm gonna sit back.
Right. And then, being an advocate, you're not necessarily an expert, and you try to explain it to the way people can understand it. Dimitri will tell you, I recently just got done with a case that took over a year to adjudicate. It took a year. I got sued for doing advocacy in my community, and I ended up spending money out of my pocket that I just recently got awarded back. So, when you're out there advocating, you're also taking hits. And then when I was out there, doing what I do, I mean, it had to come out of my pocket. Nobody was coming up saying, oh yeah, by the way, Donovan, we know you advocated for us, but you're being sued individually. Nobody stood up in my behalf and was like, oh yeah, we're going to help out. We're going to do it. No, I had to take the thing, and money came out of my own pocket. So, there's a lot of danger in becoming an advocate. There really is. You've got people that are very, very passionate about their politics. You got people that will threaten you physically. They will threaten you mentally. You take on a lot of burden doing that. And Gerry did that, and he did it very, very wisely. I used to love his pictures of him with his baseball bat. I used to love that because it was an intimidating picture because he looked like a very intimidating guy, you know what I mean? And it's just things like that, you have to do. But again, my biggest concern is his legacy. What is his legacy? I mean, he's already written in stone who he is and what he is. But are we going to take that ball forward? Or is it over? Is that it? We're done. Poor Houston. What's going to happen? Because Dr. Matthews would call out, what's his name? Mayor Turner, and all these other things. The 5-star used to call out the chief of police. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this dude is, no chaser. But a lot of us were afraid because we've been programmed by Big Mama, don't cause no trouble now. You want to come home safe. And don't get me wrong, you moms that have sons, I get it. But the thing is, when you tell your sons to stand down, that's when the neighborhood goes awry. And what I liked about the 5-star was he was not afraid and he was unapologetic in what he believed in.
Yes, indeed. And Mimi, you say I would love to speak, but we'll get too emotional. Jack A's lions are mighty and strong until we lose our own. So I completely understand. I would imagine that is hard. Corliss, go on YouTube. Go on YouTube and click on the link. There's a link on YouTube. And you click on it and you come on up. So, and I'll actually you're on Facebook, so you have to actually go on YouTube to see this. But anybody that wants to click on the link and, say some words about Mr. Gerry Monroe. And for those of y'all that came on, Gerry Monroe passed away, I guess sometime early this morning. Or what happened to him, I do not know the details. And if I did, I'm sorry, I would not be able to, share those as it is not my place. But I don't know exactly what happened to Gerry. So, forgive me for that. But yeah, he has gone on. He is now what we affectionately like to say an ancestor who has left a legacy and a great body of work behind. So yes, Corliss, go on to YouTube. All right. So this says Gerry Monroe. Now, who is this? Now, I know it ain't no Gerry Monroe. So who is this? Michael. All right, Michael, I'm going to bring you on briefly. See what you got to say. Michael likes to use a plethora of names. So here we go.
So good afternoon. I'm sorry, good evening, Demetra and Donovan. I'm sorry for the loss.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I know, Demetra, I know this is a lot for you to process and report it. Keep moving forward, keep fighting. And I put that before for Gerry Monroe by saying keep fighting. I think he really wants his people, to continue fighting. And unfortunately, the loss is very emotional for especially all of you guys. But I do know that I watched him briefly when you and Donovan and Gerry Monroe interviewed the Green Party candidate back in 2020. That was the last time I saw him. And I saw his passion in education, healthcare, especially when he interviewed the Green Party candidate and asking her about cash reparations, and she said yes. And I could tell in his eye he was a guy who was very about direct action. Takes no for an answer. Like you said, he was always boots on the ground, and I just know that he actually kind of reminds me of Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Like they're ready to fight until someone says you can't, and they're not going to give in. And my question I want to ask very briefly is that, and especially Donovan, you mentioned that about Gerry Monroe, who's going to carry the torch, who's going to pass on his legacy. So my question is this: it's going to be about when it comes to cash reparations. How do you see the Gerry Monroe's legacy trying to energize Black people to fight for cash reparations for Black America descendants of slavery? Because I'm sure that's the last thing that he really wants for his people moving forward, especially the Black Democrats.
I thank you so much for that. And I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to let somebody else up. But thank you so much, Michael. But I will do my best to answer that question. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad he brought up like the Black Democrats, because how many of you guys remember Gerry switched parties? He became a Republican.
Yeah, I remember.
That's how upset he was with the Democratic Party not delivering tangibles. I mean, he was leading the charge. He was like, "Look, I'm out of here." So,
hey, Rick C. So I'm gonna do my best to answer that. Well, we know that at least when we were on the war zone with Gerry. And as far as I know, that Gerry was a staunch advocate for the reparations of Black people. He knew what Black people were facing. He knew the wealth gap that Black people we have in America. He knew all of that. And so he advocated that, for what I remember, on the behalf of reparations. Of course, you guys know reparation is what is owed to American descendants of slavery, due to what our ancestors went through during slavery, Jim Crow, and hell, even now, right? So that is a large debt that is owed to us. But I would say that Gerry was a big advocate for the need of reparations. Miss Corliss,
Hi.
how you doing, baby?
I'm good. Hey, Donovan. Now, you know, this is like years back, right? Like many years back. Let me just say this. I know that we all on this platform have had are just bout with Gerry. I'll just say it like that. Very shocked is an understatement, like mouth on the floor. He loved the kids though, y'all. Like, I can say that. Genuine heart. But at the end of the day, I don't think that advocacy falls on just one person. You know, everybody, like when we were growing up, and especially you and Donovan, like we knew it took a village. And today it's beyond the village, because these kids are like so blatantly out of hand, disrespectful, and just way out of control. It takes an army now. It's more than a village. You know what I'm saying? So he did what he could do. And hey, it came to an end, but everybody has to take a part. Like, you can't just be the front and center all the time. And like now, probably nobody expected it, because we don't know. Nobody expected it. Everybody expects that, you know, you'll wake up tomorrow, you won't be in an accident. Anything can happen. At this point, hell, you can't even go to the grocery store and be safe. So you just really don't know. But as a whole, to everybody watching, what are you guys going to do? What are you going to step up and do? When are you going to put your feet to the fire and do exactly what he did? We didn't agree all the time. And there's a lot of times I would pick up the phone and call him and say, hey, you're wrong. You know, you need to go back and apologize because you're wrong. He would listen sometimes. Sometimes he didn't. But as we all know, that was Gerry. Like, that's just who he was. And it's, you love him or hate him. Sometimes I walk a very thin line between both. There's a thin line between love and hate. But in all reality, you know, that's life.
You are absolutely
yeah,
right.
And let me just say this. You know, when an advocate goes by, look at all of the people Gerry knew that could help the people. I mean, you know, somebody says in the comments here, like Dr. H. Muhammad, he would bring him on. He would bring on Stacy, the judge, Stacy, I forgot her last name, the Black judge. A lot of the candidates came to him. The one attorney that was a Marine.
Oh, Cunningham, or
something. But he ran for mayor and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, all these influential people he knows. Now that Gerry's gone, we don't have that connection to those people necessarily, because he had a personal relationship with them. But of course, let me ask you this: in regards to Gerry's personal associations, how did you feel about him, using, not using, but having that access to these different type of people that really kind of like would listen to what he had to say. If he said be on the war zone, you're going to be on the war zone. You know what I mean? And he'd bring them on and just deal with them.
You want me to be there? I think we all know that when he brought people on, they already knew what kind of to expect. So if you put your ass in that hot seat, really what was it to you? Because you knew what was gonna come. If you felt like he wasn't gonna, I guess if you knew that basically you were gonna say something that would step on his toes or would rub him ultimately the wrong way, oh, he was gonna deal with you accordingly. I'll never forget, and I know Demetra knows. He and he and Demetra kind of had words, on the show, and you have to be open, and that's what I used to tell him too. Like, you have to be open to others' opinions. People don't owe you to be strictly open to what you want it to be. You have to have open dialogue going both ways, whether you agree or not. And like I told him that day, when he and Demetra kind of like, he went like there with Demetra, and I called him and I told him, I said, you were wrong at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's good to you. She's good for the show. I said, both of them are good for the show. Have you ever watched what your ratings do when they're on? Just talking about everyday, whatever it is, but you still have to be open. He had access to a lot of people, y'all. He really did. He had access to a lot of people. So some took advice, some didn't.
Yeah, and what I liked is his dedication, because he would do shows in the car on his way to a situation. Like when he was in Minneapolis, he was in the car doing the show on his phone. He was dedicated to the craft and he was dedicated to the people. And you don't find that in a lot of people, because as you know, Corliss, as a mom and stuff like that, you moms already got a lot to do. You're working, you're raising the kids, you're dealing with this fool at home that you got to deal with, all this other stuff. And to have to give himself up, if that was my father or my brother, and you're out there in the world, I can only imagine the stuff that was on his plate, plus the stuff he has to do at home or with his significant other. It's kind of it kind of takes away from his home life, because he's so into bettering his community. And
it did. It was a heavy toll on him. I can say that, like, personally. Like, I knew, it did take a toll on him. Not sleeping between school and, the freeways. And do y'all remember when he went in the burning building at what was it, Kmart down there? Okay, he in a burning building. Like, for real, sir, you need to get up out of there. Thank you for the news, but yeah, keep yourself safe. How about that? And I was like, really? You in a burning building?
Yeah, he went and took it literally serious, right?
Right.
But like y'all said, though, he didn't just go to Minnesota to kind of, what they doing. He was like, places times we can hear some gunshots, and he'd be like reporting. He's like, wait a minute, or something about to go down. So it's like he was in the trenches, like boots on the ground. Yeah, and he went, several other places seeking justice for people, trying to bring awareness to it. But I think we all could say, whether we liked it or not, Gerry was not one to bite his tongue. And it's like, sometimes, brother, you need to bite your tongue. But
Well, you remember he didn't really have a lot of love for Ben Crump. You brought Ben Crump up. He was telling it on Ben Crump.
And for those of you guys who just came on, I see a lot of people asking about what happened. So brother Gerry Monroe has gone on. He has passed. He is now an ancestor. I do not know exactly what happened to him. I'll let his family share that with you guys. I'm not privy to any of that information. So We're just talking about it because we sat on the war zone with Gerry for about a year, had a lot of ups, we had some downs, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can dispute that we shared a lot of information, and I think a lot of people say they got something from all three of us, whether we agreed or not. And Gerry is going to be missed.
Hey, wait, real quick. Al
Sure.
says he even went to the state capitol in a Batman costume. I remember that too. He wasn't messing around,
Yeah, I think it was what was the name of his character? Was it I want to say a bumblebee?
Yeah, like a bee or something.
It was, but that's I know we laughing, but listen, I want to say this: when the good Lord calls me up or down, I'm hoping I go up. Okay, I've been good. When the good Lord calls me up, I would hope that we are laughing about something I've done, I said, whether y'all agree with me or not. I would never want it to be a thing of, what was me? Even though that's how we feel, right? Somebody lost, a lover, a father, a good friend, an advocate to the community. So we should be thinking about the good times, right? That's why they call it a celebration of life. Corliss, what you got to say? I see you, mama.
I just say this: everybody's gonna go through a portion of grief, myself included. Like I said, we had our ups and our downs, but at the end of the day, when you spend time with a person, whatever the relationship is, you're always still going to have a part of you that's gonna miss that person. You know what I'm saying? Because all times aren't bad. Whatever the time was that you had, even in bad times, you still have to remember the good. And that's really it. I learned a lot from Gerry, especially with education for Texas, because that's ultimately, how I met him. Learning about what was going on in Texas in the school districts with my son. And just asking questions. If you ever needed a question asked and you didn't know, he was one that you could call. If you couldn't get in contact with him, you leave a message, he'll call you back. He's always a people person, and he would put you well above, himself. So, pretty much that's it. Like at the end of the day, good, bad, or indifferent, yeah, it's a great loss. We may not all, like I said, agree on, his get down at times, and he only listened to very select people. Like we can all say that. He only listened to very select people. He may listen to you, you'll argue with him trying to get your point across. But then he'll wind up, it's the truth, Donovan. That's why you laughing, because But he'll argue you down, with you getting your point across or whatever. But then he'll call you back in a couple of days after he didn't calm down and say, oh, okay, you were right. I'm going to go apologize, or I'm going to, make it right. And that's what I told him. You never go to bed angry, and you always make things right no matter what. And that's what we should all strive to do. If you do have op with a person and you can go to them and apologize, or, at least try to clear the air, I would advise anybody to do that, because you don't want to go to bed or the sun, as my grandmother used to say, you don't want the sun to go down while you carry wrath, because you never may get that chance to apologize or clear the air. And that's all I got to say, y'all.
But Corliss, before you go, and Tanya, how you doing? I want you to address this. She says you sound very unsympathetic. You don't sound that way to me, but that's what she's saying. So can you expound upon that? I think people just probably, I don't know. What you got to say, Mama?
Who said I sound what?
Tanya on YouTube. Sound unsympathetic.
First of all, people always get the perception of how a person sounds or how it is you want to take something But unless you've dealt with that person or you had a personal relationship with that person, you can't tell me I sound unsympathetic because you don't know me, number one. Number two, you don't know, I guess, the relationship that I had with him. And number three, at the end of the day, it don't matter to me how you feel. I'm sorry, it just does not. But unsympathetic is what I could never be, especially when I was one that had a relationship with him. I knew him personally. Like, this wasn't a Facebook moment for me. I could pick up my phone and call him whenever I needed anything for my children, myself, a question, anything. Gerry was there. So I don't know if you expect me to be on here like boo-hooing, but I don't have to give you that. That's not for you to see, even if that's what I felt at this moment. Unsympathetic, no. This is me. And as long as they accepted my friends, my two friends here, and the people that know me, and he knew what he can expect from me. He knew what I was, and he very well knew what I was capable of doing. Okay, not just behind a closed door, but in public. So did I like some of the stuff he did? No. Does my heart hurt for him? Of course it did. I spent a couple of years in a relationship with him. I was engaged to him. So, I mean, you can't tell me what sympathy looks like or unsympathetic looks like, because this is what it looks like to you. I don't know what you expect my sympathy to be. I feel for his children. I feel for the person that he was with. But we can't go and unchange what has been done. So I don't know. She could like it or leave it, but it's already said.
Yes, indeed. And I want to say, y'all, I personally know Corliss. That is my sister, my friend. Corliss is my girl. So, Tanya, I know, especially on the internet, sometimes things read a different way. But yeah, it's Corliss is not being unsympathetic. This is Corliss, baby. That's Corliss. You know, she is straight, no chaser a lot. Sometimes I'll be like, when I see you, I'm gonna put you in the headlock because you tripping. Okay.
Look, Donovan, I'm not too far from you. You could come whoop me.
yeah, she got a lot of whoopings coming, but that's Corliss.
Oh my goodness. But I think this is a very it's a wow factor, is what it really is. It's like, whoa, is this real? This is real. This is real as he get.
Yeah, because it's like, and I hear what you're saying, and I feel that, because it's like somebody, you know, as Gerry was so polarizing, he was like larger than life. He was very opinionated. He was not going, but biting his tongue is not something he did, and so it's hard to imagine a world without him here, because he added so much, whether we liked it or not. Gerry added so much, and he was unapologetic about seeking justice for those who he felt, you know, was wrong. So yeah, it's shocking. I'm not gonna lie. When I heard it this morning, I was like, what? And like it stopped me cold in my tracks. Because, you know, I get up early on Sunday mornings just to get ahead of my weekday. And I was going to start working, but it took me a couple of hours really just to kind of like, okay, you know, because I did see inboxes coming in and things like that. And I was like, okay, get grounded. You got to get back to work. You got to get back to work. So, you know, it knocked the wind out of me to hear that. It's still unbelievable. So, you know, to his family and loved ones, you know, I think we've all lost somebody so near and dear, but my heart goes out to them. It really does.
And you know what? I'm gonna say this too, because most people know that Gerry was sick a lot of the times, but Gerry also was like a cat with more than 9 lives. So it's like everything that he went through, he always bounced back from, and that's when you really don't expect to see like something like this, because on a normal, he'll be down for a couple of days, you know, getting his rest or whatever it is he needs, and he'll bounce right back. So even if, like, when I checked on him probably a while back before we had our little encounter or whatever, and even when he was sick, I would call and check on him. I say, you know, get your rest. This is what you need to do. Make sure you do this, this, and the third. And within a couple of days, you'll see him back on live. You know what I'm saying? Or you'll see him on a plane, or you'll see him somewhere with some people, some kids, somebody. So yeah, I just would have never in a million years, because he always just snaps back about it.
Yes,
Well, let this go back to say that you said we don't know when our number is going to be called. And we used to say this all the time, and I say this all the time. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You know, I mean, anytime we could be snatched out of here. And Gerry was in our age group bracket, except you and Demetra. You know, I'm the old guy sitting up here.
right. We young. We baby.
Yeah, y'all half
I'm
my
sorry,
age.
sir. I'm sorry. Can you say 49 look good, 50 a bit, and all this? Knock it off, sir. We ain't no spring chickens around here.
But you know what I mean? I mean, you know, and you know, if you really think about it, I mean, he fairly passed away at a very young age. I mean, you know, I mean, he had his sick problems, but for those of us that are out there thinking that you got all the time in the world and this, that, nobody knows the time nor the hour, you know. But the thing is, I can say this: he left here doing the work. The question now is, who is now going to pick up that baton and continue the legacy? Who's going to do it?
Absolutely. Hello there. He says, I'm going to miss Mr. Gerry Monroe. Nobody can replace what he did for kids in Houston, Texas. Mr. Monroe was a true champion for kids. Yes, he absolutely was. Undisputed a champion for the children. So you are absolutely right. Yeah, it's just it's a lot, you know, it's a lot to take in, but I want to kind of piggyback off of, and Corley, stay as long as you want. And anybody else want to tap on the link, come on and say, you know, some words about Gerry, how you knew him and how he impacted you or whatever, please feel free to do that. The link is on YouTube, it's pinned there. One of the things that I thought about, you know, as I learned about the passing of Gerry, is life is short. We don't know when our time is going to be up. We just don't know. And so I was having a conversation with somebody this morning. I said, for me, the biggest sin is to leave the planet without utilizing the gifts and talents that God gave you, right? As Les Brown has always said, the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. Because you have people's talents, their gifts, ideas, all those things are there in that graveyard that were never used because people had excuses. Oh, not me. I don't know. I can't. I won't. I shan't. Whatever reason, they just didn't use those gifts. So I would say that wasn't true for Gerry. Gerry definitely used the gifts that were given to him. And that should be a testament for all of us. Use the gifts that are given to us, because you just never know, right? And let's spend our time on this planet wisely. But as you're using your gifts, whatever that is, don't forget about yourself. Because as I said, and we've all said, in the life of advocacy, you often forget about yourself. You are the last person that is considered. We hear and we've heard about so many advocates. Malcolm X was one of them. He died with no money, died broke, giving his life for the betterment of Black people. And the one thing that I'm really upset about the passing of Malcolm, even though I was not born then, is a lot of people talk Malcolm, but they don't walk Malcolm. On May 19th, which is coming up soon, people reverence Malcolm X. Oh, Malcolm X, Malcolm X, Malcolm X, Malcolm X. But it's like, well, what are you doing to honor the life of Malcolm X? Are you doing any of the things that he asked us as Black people to do? You're probably not, but it's cute to put on a t-shirt, to put on, you change your profile picture to Malcolm X. You're a fraud. You're perpetrating a fraud. And so, as I said, people like Malcolm go to the grave without a penny to their name. Now, I don't know Gary's financial situation, and if I didn't, I would not disclose that, but I'm just saying, are we going to allow Gerry to go to the grave and his work be in vain? Will the day of his passing and on his birthday, will we reverence Gerry and say, oh, remember Gerry, oh, Gerry was such a blah, 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 woo, 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 he was this, that, and the other? Or are we going to put boots to the ground in some way, shape, or form? I'm not saying you got to be in there running the burning buildings. I ain't saying you got to be doing all of that. Like literally, he was in burning buildings, okay? I'm not saying you got to be doing that. But are you going to at least try? Because I'm new to Houston, right? I'm not using that as an excuse not to get my hands dirty, right? But Houston has a lot of problems, okay? Whether you're driving down the street, about 3 weeks ago, my daughter was driving down the street and full barred her car to where her tire exploded, and we had to get another one because of the potholes, right? And so even if it's, hey, city council member, you know, on this street over here, there's a mean pothole that causes people a major damage to their vehicles. Are you guys going to fill that up? Even if it's something like that, right? But we've really got to get past the days of having these martyrs and we only speak of them, but we don't do of them, right? Because I said this to Donovan earlier. I know that I pulled back a lot from the things that I would do and say. I know Donovan has. Donovan is one of the biggest advocates in Moreno Valley, California, and it is a thankless job. Donovan ran for city council twice and lost twice, okay? Not because he's not qualified. Donovan is the most qualified person in that city. But you know that they wouldn't vote him on. They still to this day literally knock on this man's door. Oh, we got this going on. We need you to help us. Can you help us in this, that, and the other? But he's like, but I wasn't worthy enough to get the seat so I could really do something. But Donovan does get things done. But he is now retired to his retired life now. He's doing stuff in his yard because he's like, I'm not going to go to the grave trying to help people who ain't trying to help themselves. So it's like, why do we continue to ask people to put their life on the line, whether it's, you know, via unfriendly fire like that of Malcolm or health issues? Why do we ask people to do that and we're not going to back them up? We're not going to see them through. We're not. We just do a lot of this. So as I said, God forbid, when I leave up out of here, I'm going to just keep it real. If you ain't going to mention me and some of the nice things I did, or maybe I laughed or made you laugh or whatever it was, just roll me off the cliff, because that's what my daughter says she's going to do. Just roll me off and keep the life insurance money and keep it pushing, right? Just roll me off the cliff and keep it pushing, okay? That's all I'm saying. And hello to everybody who came on here. Please click on the link. If y'all, it's on YouTube, y'all want something to say something about Gerry, please, this is your opportunity to do that. So please click on the link on YouTube, and I'm gonna put it in here in the comment section. Yeah, Donovan, I'm so you. Nah, it's funny. I'm about to say Gerry. Donovan, Corliss, what y'all got to say?
Let me say this. I just have a question. And you're in Houston and stuff like that. Off the top of your head, Demetra, who can we draft to finish the work? Off the top of your head.
I'm with his daughter, Jalen. Draft yourself, right? Draft your damn self. You know, ain't nobody better to do the job than you. You know the issues that are out there. Like Gerry, and you know, my mom said this about me. My mom didn't like what I was doing. You know, my mom would rather me not, in her words, put myself in harm's way, right? One thing my mom said about me, she says, you're courageous. Not a lot of people have the courage you do. And I'm saying that about Gerry. Gerry was courageous in a lot of things he advocated for. There's no doubt in my mind, sometimes he went to bed thinking, do I have to look under my car? look out my window. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure sometimes he thought that, like, damn, is somebody gonna try to get me up out of here for the things that I'm advocating for, whether we like them? Like, so the point that I'm making is it takes courage to do what Gerry did. But if you want something done, sometimes you got to stop being afraid and do it yourself. And please, because I tell people this all the time, don't knock on the door of an advocate if you are not at least willing to help. Because there's a lot of times people, hey, advocate, I have this insurance, I need it. All right, cool, I'm with it. Let me put my cape on, you know, and they get out there and then they're like, okay, come on. You're like, well, I would, but, you know, I'm just going to wait. Well, what you bother me for? If you weren't even at least willing to go hand in hand, there's an African proverb that says, one can go, and I'm paraphrasing, can go far, but two can go farther, or something like that. One can go along, two can go farther. So it's easier when there's two people to do it, but don't bother an advocate if you ain't willing to put in the work yourself.
Well, Dimitri, you've seen it yourself here in the city of Moreno Valley. Okay, in my city, the third of the city is Black. Third of the city is identified as Black. 89% of all projects go toward the Hispanic community. And I'm not mad at them. I always tell people, whose fault is that? It's our fault because they show up at city council meetings in doing that. And Dimitri happened to come to a meeting, and we've told this story before. And here comes these Black people complaining. Oh, no, we don't want that in our neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. The decision has already been made 2 months ago. Where were you at when they were considering this project moving into your community? In my city right now, they moved all the marijuana dispensaries to where the older neighborhoods are, where, you know, the lower than middle class people live, right? That's where all the medical dispensaries are, because when they wanted to put it where the white folks and the rich people were, they were like, oh no. And every time I speak at city council, it's just me and maybe Daryl Terrell, another brother that advocates outside of that. And that's our problem. We want to, it's all over but the hollering and the screaming. It's just like being hit by a car. It's all over but the hollering and screaming. You've been hit, your bones are broke, it's over. The game is over. You can holler and scream all you want. It's not going to make a damn of a difference. And now we just lost an advocate that had connections, that had resources, and was boots on the ground. Where is the next advocate? What's going to happen? Again, Dimitri, you brought up a good question. Was all of this for him in vain?
I want to say this, Donovan and D. I don't think what he did was in vain, but what I am going to say is, if these parents don't get up off their behinds and do the work for their own children, then guess what? You're going to be in trouble. Because yes, he can come in and help, but the same thing that Gerry did is the same thing that parents can do. All you have to do is read. Read. And if you don't want to read, guess what? Audible reads to you. So you don't have no excuse out here why you can't learn what the system does. I am not from Texas. Do I live there? Yes. Okay. When my son had somebody come on the campus and walk up to the classroom and get in his face and threaten them, and I felt that the school could not protect my children, guess what I did? I pulled my children. Either you're going to listen to me and I'm going to protect my kids, or you're going to listen to me and you're going to protect them. And I did not allow them to go back. And guess what I got? A truancy.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. It doesn't make any sense to me. Do we send our kids to school to become better citizens and to learn how to cope in society? Or do we send them as a daycare because we don't want to be bothered? I tell people all the time, you don't have to come to city council like I do and yell, pitch, and bitch and moan.
Right.
But you got technology. You got a smartphone in your hand. You got a tablet in your hand. You could watch the meetings, even for the school board, on the internet, on YouTube. They have all of these accesses. And then, it's funny that when I ask people, well, who's your representative in this zone? I don't know. What the hell are you doing living in this city if you don't even know who represents you? What are you knocking on my door for? oh, we seen you on the thing all the time, whatever. But didn't you see the 5 guys sitting up on the dais that represent the different districts?
Right.
Hello. I mean, so for us, especially within our community, I see so many parents disengaged. But here's a man, a stranger practically to you, that is in the school telling you what is going on, getting the bad teachers out, trying to get the good teachers in, using the resources that he has. Now he's gone. Now what are we going to do?
We're gonna remember him for what he was, like we do at most celebrations. Okay. And then a week go by, people still sad, 30 days hit, 60 by 90 days. I ain't even gonna say 90 days. I'm gonna give it 45. 45 days. You'll have the obituary sitting somewhere, and guess what? Your life carries on.
Yeah. Jalen, please click on the link. I saw you express some concern about, he says, I wish I could speak, but I don't know if I would say the things people will want to hear. It don't matter what they want to hear. It only matters what you want to say. You come on and say whatever you want to say. So I'm giving you permission to be you. Okay. And I think your father will want you to be you. And you know goddamn well your daddy will say, I don't give a damn what nobody else think. I'm going to say what I got to say.
Unapologetically, right?
Right. So, come on. You say whatever you want to say. Click on the link. I put it in the comment section. It's also pinned on YouTube. And that goes for anybody else that want to come on here and, say something about the life of Gerry, what he meant to you, impact, something you learned, a funny story, whatever it is. Like I said, I've never met Gerry personally, but I think I would hope that, he would love the things that people are saying about him. And, I would say in all fairness, I see a lot of people while he was here, they would be giving him his flowers. So that's also good to know as well. But yes, Jalen, please click on the link. Absolutely. Anybody else who wants to come on here? Let's see here. Damon, how you doing? He says, wolves get shit done, sheep get slaughtered. Absolutely. You're right about that. And Shaniqua, how are you doing? It says it takes a village to raise kids like Corliss, Demetra K, and Donovan. Like y'all said, it's time for the parents to step up and do better as well and be involved with their kids and their education. And it's Corliss said a mouthful. She did. Because if parents, and I know some situations where parents just need help, right? Everybody ain't no parents out there like a lot of y'all, Corliss, myself, Donovan, that's like, I wish your mother would. And some people, they ain't got the gangster in them like that, right? So they need a little help. But she's right. If some parents would say, you know what, okay, I know I ain't been up to the school since my child was in kindergarten and they about to graduate, but let me go on up there, whether it's to the PTA, the parent, the back to school night, get involved in their activities. Hey, teacher, I'm just checking on my child before I get the progress report that everything good, anything I can do. You know what I'm saying? Like be a little, and Gerry would talk about that a lot. So this is not original idea of mine or Corliss, anybody. Gerry would say that a lot. Parents, get involved. Get involved in your child's education. Because I would imagine a lot of the children that Gerry helped, maybe their parents didn't know until they have to know that there was a problem. You know what I mean? So you as a parent should be your child's first advocate. Anybody else coming to help you, they should be secondary. Should be you leading the charge for justice for your child or whatever it is that's going on. Should be you leading the charge. Like we got to, get a little backbone, get our backbone a little bit stiff so we can be the advocates we are looking for.
Right. And then, speaking of advocacy, everybody thinks that when you're an advocate that, you're supposed to take the whole load. That's not how it works. You're supposed to work with the advocate to solve the problem. All the advocate has is the resources or the connections to bridge the problem. But we're just so quick to say, oh, I gave him $400 to do this like he's a lawyer or he's this person who's contracted to do all of this stuff. No, you have to go with him hand in hand, or with that advocate hand in hand, to work the problem out. It's just that simple. That's what I'm saying. We are so quick as a people, and I'm talking to my people, Black people. We are so quick to let somebody else do the work we should be doing for ourselves.
And this is the thing too. We're in an age, you guys, like now, even if you, because I'm a parent. I have 7 children, 4 girls, 3 boys. I have 5 grandkids in it. And at the end of the day, yes, we know everybody has to work. We do know that. But on your 15-minute break, hell, you don't even need a 15-minute break. Because hell, some of y'all be texting, Facebooking, Instagramming, Twitter, Snapchat, all that all day long. So if you took the time out and got off Facebook, Snapchat, whatever the case may be, and emailed these teachers, you can have communication any way you need to. You don't have to just pick up the phone, email the teachers. Because a lot of times they don't have time to pick up the phone because they in class, and then trust me, when it's over, they want to get out.
Absolutely. Ragnar, how are you doing today? I'm going to unmute you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. No complaints. So what's on your mind, dear brother?
I didn't know that you had never met my classmate. So Gerry Monroe is actually the reason that Jack Yates High School still exists today. Gerry Monroe is the reason why that football field out there that has a turf isn't named after someone that they try to name it after. Gerry Monroe has done more for Jack Yates alumni than anybody I know. And Gerry Monroe, he's going to be missed. He's definitely going to be missed. And so when you look at the things that Gerry Monroe did for Jack Yates alumni, the things that I wasn't there to do, you're talking about who's going to stand up and do it. Well, we didn't. He did. Only Monroe was the one, walking into the complexes, at night without fear. Only Monroe was doing that. When Monroe said, "Hey, I don't want to give out the neighborhoods and give out the places, that he used to go to over there by Yellowstone Park and places like that." And he used to say, "Hey, fellas, we ain't gonna no more killings." Only Monroe stopped people from shooting around there. That was only Gerry Monroe. And so that's who Gerry Monroe was. But thanks, and I'll go.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know it was difficult to do that. As you said, he's gone, but your alumni, and I know that Gary's Jack Yates family was large, and I'm friends with quite a few of y'all. And whenever y'all have a function, at the junction, y'all show up with your, I guess it's gold, or is it yellow and red, or I don't know if it's gold, but y'all will show up in droves all over my timeline, right? So I do know that, and I have an alumni, I graduated in 1989, but we don't even have a fraction of the high school pride that you Jack Yates Lions have. So I know that is very difficult to have someone such as Gerry, who was probably one of you guys' most popular, if not popular, Jack Yates Lions. As you guys said, he really did do the work to keep the school around and a whole host of other things. So yes, thank y'all for coming on. And Miss Jalen, how are you this fine day?
It's a hot Sunday.
It is. What's on your mind, baby girl?
The reason I said what I said is because I would say I'm not the best person who could talk about him, mainly because our relationship wasn't, I'll say, conventional and typical. But I would say that I appreciate the fact that he was able to create betterment for the people that he worked with and the communities that he touched. Even though it was it, I don't know how to say it, but
Take your time. We ain't going nowhere.
um, yeah, it was kind of a shock for me, because he was sort of like a cat with 9 lives. You know, he would let me know
Well,
I'm doing okay. You know, I'm fine. I would hear something like, "Oh, okay, cool, you're okay, great." But this time, obviously, it was different. So,
well, Jalen, can I ask you a question in regards, not in regards to your relationship with your father, but I lost my father at a young age, and I always tell people that have fathers out there, and either or parent, that's a blessing just to be able that you can go to them or whatever. But regardless of us as parents, and we have our faults, and we might fall short or whatever the situation may be. Looking at the work that your father did in the community, what is your take on how he did that? Are you proud of him that he left a mark as indelible as he did, as that being your father, being that you guys might not have the greatest relationship, but kind of like, well, he did this, because we always have stories of guys that wreck the neighborhood selling drugs, right? But then later on, they go on and they are very productive in the community, righting the wrongs that they did or trying to do that. Would you say that you're very proud of his advocacy and what he did in the community?
no, I am. I'm very proud of what he did and essentially created, some good positive karma for himself, considering, everybody knows he has a past. He talked about it all the time. So being able to sort of come back from that and create good karma and good and positivity and try to make himself a better example for people around him. Yeah, I will always be proud of him for that.
Absolutely. You know what, Jalen? I know it's a struggle because, like you said, your relationship with your dad is your relationship with your dad. Um, and I think anybody who is a parent or anybody who's a child, which is most of us, right? We have stories to tell about our parents, right? My mom, she passed on in 2016. I love my mom dearly, and it's still hard for me to even get over her being gone. But we didn't always have a great relationship either, right? And I think that we need to get and say to ourselves, and I'm saying this to you because I struggle with that sometimes too. We need to say it's okay to admit that, yeah, we didn't always have the greatest of relationships. Because a lot of times we see people when they reverence their parents. Oh, it's just so wonderful. Oh gosh, it was just so great. And so it's like, okay, that might have been true. But there's a lot of people who say, yeah, we had a great relationship, but my mama got on my damn nerves too, right? But I say that because we have to free ourselves of feeling like I always got to speak well of that person. Oh, my mom, she was a saint. My mom's a saint now, don't get me wrong, but she sometimes could be a little devilish. We have to free ourselves from thinking that we are tasked with always upholding that they were great people, because we know that wasn't always the case, right? They made some mistakes. I'm not saying they weren't great people, but they made mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes cost us something, whether it's something emotionally, mentally, or whatever. It cost them something. But don't ever feel like, well, I can't really say what I want to say, because of course you're seeing everybody say all these great things about your dad. And I'm not telling you not to say great things, but I'm saying you're seeing a lot of people say great things, and you maybe just kind of feel like, well, I don't want to be contrary to that. But I want to say nobody could tell your story about you and your dad like you. So don't ever be afraid to tell the whole story. That makes any sense.
Mm. You kind of put it all in a nice little box. um, yeah, that's. And regardless, I'll always be hesitant to sort of speak against it because he was a positive light to a lot of people. So I want to keep it positive.
Yeah, you keep it positive, but it's and I believe in that. Let's keep it positive publicly, not private. Of course, with people who know and love you, and I'm sure none of that's a secret to them. Um, you do what you need to do, but then never be afraid to tell the whole story. Like I said, that I love my mom to death. Like I ain't been in a fight in a long time, but I wouldn't mind getting in one over my mama. I don't care who it was. I was finna get them up over my mama, even though sometimes she got on my nerves. It's just the truth, right? Don't mean I don't love her any less. I love her any less. I'm just telling the whole story. You know, my mom was a handful sometimes, but I will go to the grave over my mama. It's just the way it was. So, you know, you say and you do what is comfortable for you. Don't these people don't know you. You know what I mean? They don't know you. And don't ever, and I don't think you think this, but don't allow other people's opinions to quiet you down or to make you deviate from what you really want to say, right? Because one thing you know about your daddy is he don't care how unpopular what it was he was saying or doing, he was gonna say or do it anyway. Now I agree with that, and I'm just me being honest, I didn't agree with a lot of things that he did and said, but one thing about your daddy, he was gonna say that he didn't give a damn who cared. You know what I mean? So that don't ever get in the habit of thinking, well, I got to please everybody and I want to make nobody mad. That was your daddy. That was your daddy. And you don't need permission from nobody to say what you need to say about your daddy. You getting that from me, okay? You say what you want to say about your daddy, good, bad, or indifferent. That was your daddy.
Jalen, I like to say, let me give you my condolences first off. But let me just say this as a person, you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them anything. You at this point have to do what is best for you at the end of the day. And that's what I want to tell you. Like, continue to be you, and you just don't owe anybody anything.
Absolutely. And Jay, how you doing? You says, hello, Demetra, to you and your guests. I have one question. Do you all think when it comes to Black people, do you think some Black people are just tired of or just don't want to do anything? And I think that's a good question for all of us. You know, I'm going to, Donovan, how about this? Jalen, I'll let you answer it. Corliss, Donovan, and I'll go last. So, Jalen, do you want to answer this question?
Ooh, that's controversial. I would say historically, the majority of us, I can't say all, but majority of us have looked to other people to take on our problems and have depended and trusted these people and entrusted these people with our problems. And I feel like that's where we fall flat when it comes to representation and politicians, because at the end of the day, they have their own agendas as well. You can tell them your problems all day, but just because you tell them your problems doesn't mean that they're going to actually do anything for your problems, because they still have other, commitments to make. They have other people to talk to. They have other things they're lobbying for. So I think the best advocate for your issues is going to be yourself, because not every Black person has the same issues. We all have different issues. All of us aren't impacted by the same, societal issues, racial issues. The best advocate is yourself, for yourself. I think that's the best logical way I could put it.
Absolutely. Corliss, what you think?
What I have learned in just picking up the baton, I'll say, like Jalen said, you are your best advocate, but we have to go back to the basics. Literacy is the number one killer for us. A lot of people are not only tired, but they're illiterate. They can't read. Some of them can't write. So comprehension, if you can't do the fundamentals, you're not really going to understand how to go in and do anything. So like Jalen says, you pass it to someone, or you're willing to go broke to pay someone to step up and speak for you. I was kind of pushed into many situations because, like I said, I have 7 children. So my first bout with the school system in California was going to jail when my son was 7 days old. Like I didn't go to the school to speak to the principal to go to jail, but that's exactly what happened. Okay. And I learned from there. I started going on the internet. I started reading. Like Donovan said, you go to the boards. If they don't hear you, you continue to read. But you have to advocate for yourself and for your children. And if you can't figure it out, then you get with somebody, another parent, anybody that's willing to help you learn the system until you get it. It took me many years to learn. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, even when I got to Texas, I've always just been the type of person where I don't back down. I'm going to say what I feel, and you're going to know at the end of the day. So, yeah, a lot of people are tired, but we are the village. We can't depend definitely on politicians. We see that everywhere, like all over the country. They're not dependable. You put them in office and they do the same thing they were going to do before they got in office. Absolutely nothing. So advocate for yourself.
But like to build off of that, I think that's why. Has anybody like realized why philosophers' ideologies have lasted for so long? It's word of mouth and wisdom. They were able to pass it to people that were around them, talk about it amongst themselves, build new ideologies based off of who they talked to. It wasn't just them sort of advocating for the community, it was them speaking to the community and giving their wisdom.
Absolutely. And they, also say you may be able to kill a man, but you'll never be able to kill his ideas. And like you said, the wisdom and stuff that he passed on. Donovan?
Well, I'm going to say this in regards to, because that was a really, really good question. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if we're tired. It doesn't matter. When the slaves became free and they said, okay, you guys are free, get off of our property. I mean, they basically had to go out there and make it happen with nothing. I'm sure they were very tired. During the Jim Crow era, you're out here walking around and they're going to lynch you. You're in the wrong spot. You're drinking in the wrong thing. I'm very sure they were tired. We can't use the excuse with all the privileges that we have right now in the modern age, talk about, well, I'm just a little tired. Negro, are you crazy? Are you crazy? And I'm not talking to what's his name, but you see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if we're tired. We have to do the work because it isn't about us anymore. It's about the next generation. Please do not follow these baby boomers and don't give a damn about the future. This is why we're where we're at today. This is why we're at today. Nobody is looking at the future. Do you know what one of the number one things is keeping Black people from getting qualified employment? We can't speak Spanish. Spanish people are 40% of the population. Do you know a lot of jobs when you go there, they're going to ask you in the interview, do you happen to speak another language? Do you speak Spanish? That could be the difference between you getting the job and not getting the job. But yet your tax dollars go to ESL. How many people know what ESL is? English as a second language. Guess who's taking those classes? The Armenians, the Ukrainians, the Spanish, the Puerto Ricans, whoever's coming here. But here we are, our people, we can't speak another language because we're behind enemy lines, and then we wonder why we can't get the job, even though we've got the bachelor's degree and we've got all the qualifications. We can't speak Spanish. But then, and this is what I've been advocating for in my city and at the school board, and I don't even have children in the school system. Why isn't it that we do not have a Spanish course? And I know some of you guys will say, well, you could take Spanish when you get to college. You've got to have beginning Spanish from high school to start. You could go into that college course all you want. If you don't know any Spanish, you're not going to be successful in that course. So why isn't our programs bilingual? And that's the thing. You can't be tired. I can't be tired to advocate that. I'll give you a better example. For 8 years, Demetra, what have I been advocating for 8 years? In my neighborhood?
For the warehouse situation?
No, just in my neighborhood.
Oh, Boys and Girl Club.
Well, that and what else?
Man, there's a million things now.
Well, the thing is at the park. The one thing we need.
Y'all needed a bathroom.
A bathroom. After 8 years of advocating, I finally got the bathroom coming. $6 million allocated. It took me 8 years. And guess what? If I was Hispanic and I had done that, it wouldn't have taken me 8 years because they come with an army to get it. As a lone Black person, it took me 8 years by myself. I'm tired, but yet I got it done. We can't afford to be tired. We can't be using these excuses. We got to stop it. I'm very sure our ancestors were tired, but that did not stop them from lifting the load and doing what they have to do.
Yeah. And I think you guys all said it beautifully, and I think it's a combination. I just think Black people are tired, and some maybe don't know what to do, but I think you all hit the nail on the head. You got to advocate for yourself, you know, and I just think there's a lot of apathy amongst us. It's kind of like we don't care. Well, you know, just whatever, somebody else to do it, that kind of attitude. And yeah, we're tired. We're tired of a lot of injustices. I mean, you Black in America, there's an injustice every moment that we're here, right? And we'll get off of this and hear something else horrible that has happened to somebody Black. And so, yeah, we are tired. We are tired of, you know, not getting any justice or some justice, slow justice. Like, it's a lot going on, right? We're Black people in America. And I think it's safe to say, since even on the plantation, you think about somebody like Nat Turner, he was advocating, right? Whether he was doing it his way, but he was advocating for the freedom of his people by any means necessary, right? And throughout, after slavery, you had people in Jim Crow that was advocating, and the civil rights movement, and even to this day. So Black people have always been advocating for something, freedom, justice, and equality, right? But yeah, so you get fatigue in that. But the other thing is, one thing Gerry did do is he held the Democrats accountable. I know he used to be one, but then he was not one, you know? And he would hold them accountable. And we know that Black people disproportionately vote for the Democratic Party to no avail for ourselves. Like, we have nothing to show for it. And so, along with us being tired, we also have to be tired of voting for oppression. That is something we talked about a lot on the war zone. We keep voting for oppression. We keep saying, oh, woe is me. Oh, it's Black people. We got a lot going on against us, and it's true. But then we go vote for the very now. I'm not big up in the Republicans, because I know somebody gonna say, well, I'm not the Republicans. I know the Republicans ain't no good, but they don't come to our neighborhoods and our churches and lie to us and say, well, if you vote for me, I'm gonna stand by you because you stood by me. That was Joe Biden's exact words, right? They don't do that. The Democrats do. So they know what we're asking for. We're asking for reparations. We're asking for land. We're asking for justice. We're asking for equality. We're asking to be left the F alone by white supremacy, right? They can do that, but they will not do that. But you know what? They do for everybody else. So yeah, I can see why we as Black people are tired. And that's why a lot of people just really start showing up to the polls too. It's like, for what? Well, I'm gonna waste gas. It's high, especially if you live in California. Shoot, you're looking at what, $5 a gallon? Well, I'm gonna waste $5 a gallon to go to the polls and get more of the same. I'm good, right? So yeah, some people are just plain old tired, but I agree with you all. We cannot get tired. We have to think about our ancestors. Listen, dear Farrakhan, he'll be 90, I think, in a couple of weeks. He's been doing advocacy for Black people for most of his life. I'd imagine there's a lot of nights he went to bed tired and shaking his head. He could have went off and had a wonderful life with Mother Khadijah. Very talented man. He was as you guys saw him talk about many times, a calypso singer. Harry Belafonte actually should have been Farrakhan, because they were, auditioned for the same roles a lot of times. Very talented violinist or whatever the case is. So he could have done a lot of things, but he decided to advocate for Black people. So it's a tiring job. But when I get tired, I think about people like Farrakhan, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and now we have to think of Gerry Monroe. He was tired all the way to the very end. So what right do we have to talk about I'm tired?
D, let me say this real quick, and I know all of us will agree to this. Our Black tails ain't tired when it comes to passing the marijuana laws.
You better stop it.
Them going to pick up them Jordans.
You better stop.
Them iPhones. Okay, so yeah, all of that. Let's say we having a twerk fest and see how many people run out to wherever. You ain't even got to be voting, but I bet you the club be packed. No, I'm serious. Like, it's very sad. It is very sad. We are a people that just cannot be broken. Okay, it just we're not going to be broken. Look at all that we've gone through, and we're still here. We show up when we want to show up, and that's when we need to stop, because this next generation that's coming, with everything that's going around, baby, we doomed unless we step up to the plate. We as a whole, a collective, not one person. Because even if Jalen went to step in a role, she cannot carry this load by herself. The load is way too big for any one person. And yes, it's gonna kill them. Okay? So we have to step up.
I hold on. I definitely can't do that. Definitely won't do that. Respectfully, it's not anything I see myself doing. I do, however, have conversations and advocate within my own group of people, and I don't think I could ever do what he did. But I think, oh, that kind of threw me off. I think with Black people, we've assimilated so much into American culture, which we had no choice but to. But we've assimilated so much, and we've welcomed them to take our ideas. We've welcomed them to take our money, our resources, and they feel like they don't have to do anything for us because essentially we've given them our identity. I mean, they feel so comfortable taking it from us because we've welcomed them to do it for so long. So why would they give us reparations? There's no reason to. We haven't given them a true reason for us to get reparations. Not saying that we don't deserve it, but no one can really pinpoint a viable reason for them to give it to us that makes sense in their minds. Hopefully I said that correctly. I don't
No,
know.
you made perfect sense, and more so we don't stick together. They know that we gonna fight against each other. Oh, we need to vote blue no matter who. And then you got some people like, well, why? Why I'm gonna do that? You know what I mean? Because a Smurf is blue. Am I gonna vote for a Smurf? You know what I mean? So why should I do that? Right? So we got all this fighting, but the other groups of people who get stuff, the Asians, white people, Hispanics, Afghans, Ukrainians, because now they over here, they know to stick together. I always tell y'all about an audio book that's on YouTube. Y'all should go listen to it if it's still there. The Hidden Secrets of Oriental Wealth. A good friend of mine by the name of O recommended to me years ago. And the Asian guy talked about it. He said, he's speaking to Black people. He says, listen, basically, I'm paraphrasing, I'm going to give y'all the game. Y'all always talk about how we come over here, we get everything, and we're special. He says, we're not special. He says, no matter what we got going on, he said, we can live 6 to 8 people in the house and we can hate each other's guts, but we know, hey, you better shut your ass up. We got a goal. We going to buy this house. Then we going to buy the 5 other houses that's for sale on this block. And then we going to wash, rinse, and repeat, whether we like each other or not, because we got a common goal. But see, the problem with us as Black people, I don't like him. Oh, I'm who the leader? I'm supposed to be the leader. Well, why you say we can't get it off the ground. We can't even get it off the paper because somebody gonna get in their feelings, have an ego problem, and then we gonna all go home and say, well, that went over like a lead balloon. So they know how to stick together. We don't. Jalen, what was you gonna say?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the fact that we differentiate ourselves from Africans, like
Oh man,
I forgot the titles that I think it's ADOS and then something else.
I know what you're talking about. I ain't gonna say it because they be coming for me.
Yeah, I mean Asians and people of Spanish descent, their culture and their values are more important than their feelings in the moment.
Traditional.
Yeah, they're more traditional. Thank you.
Yeah, and they just like boots to the ground. We know what we got to do. They be like, shut up, Ling Ling. We don't hear one care that you mad. Be quiet. Be quiet right now. And guess what? Ling Ling is quiet.
So do you guys know that like right now in Illinois they are giving reparations, but there's a stipulation. Okay, you have to be able to prove that you come from descendants of slaves. Now,
Wait,
how many?
wait, real quick. When you say reparations, what do you mean? Are they giving cash money?
Yes,
Okay.
I think it's like I think it's a few billion. Okay, and this past probably last year, the beginning of this year, but you have to be able to prove that you're a descendant. I said, y'all really got y'all nerve.
Well, the thing is that
Well,
to
they
me,
have to do that.
the thing is, it's really not that hard to prove. You're only talking about 4 or 5 generations back, so that wouldn't be a big deal.
But not a big deal to who, Donovan? Because
To us,
how
to
many
us
of
black people.
us, right? But how many of us, right,
Mm-hmm.
truly know how to go back and dig up that we have descendants? Not a lot of us.
Well. Here's the thing. See, and I know where you're going with that, and I agree with you because we're too busy smoking our weed, drinking,
Come on.
partying, doing all that other stuff. I get it. We're distracted, but the thing is, Big Mama had that Bible that had all the important the birth certificates were in there and stuff like that. Whatever the deal is, but here's the thing: you can always go back to the National Archives because we were property. All of that is there. We were insured and all this other stuff. But I get what you're saying, that we don't have the basic knowledge. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to prove that you're a true descendant of slaves, because some of us have, lineage that's mixed.
If you can give one person, Jalen, that's it. You know what my daughter called me and said, y'all? They said, oh, we ain't worried. My mama got the whole family tree to take us all the way back to Africa, not on one side, 2 sides. So my question was, well, do I get 2 checks or one?
Right, but like you said, Corliss, they want you to prove it. It's like, well, y'all prove it. Y'all know everything else about us. If I would tell somebody, whisper it under a bed into a pillow, I'm getting ready to go to the store, y'all gonna hear me say it. So y'all know we doing that, but you don't know where we come from. All of a sudden, y'all ain't got no knowledge of who we are. Stop it,
Well, I want to say this. I want to say this real quick. Since Demetra and Corliss are now in Houston, they're Californians. When the reparations check comes down, I'm going to make sure y'all don't get y'all. Y'all left.
Nah, boo-boo, because that reparations commission, trust me, I'm all up on it. Okay, they're making a decision in July, as y'all know. They said they think that Black Californians deserve reparations, so they are deciding on the amount of that. And they said that Californians who moved due to the economy, we get our money too, goddammit. Okay?
Look, Donovan, and I ain't up in Houston, baby. Okay? I ain't in Houston. I have dual residency. Would you like to see my driver's license?
I'm a California girl to the day I die. Okay?
But yeah, for all the people watching and stuff, and Corliss had a great point. And I'm glad you brought that up. You're only talking about four or five generations. That's how short it's been since we were in slavery. It's only been 4 or 5 generations. My grandfather, who will be 100 years old this year, that means his grandfather was a slave. So it's not that far to go back to find this stuff. It's just not. But the white man will tell you, well, we don't know who's a slave. It's just, it's impossible to figure it out. No, it's not. It's very simple. And that's what they don't want you to know. It is very simple. And those of you that understood what I said about Mama having that Bible with all the birth certificates and stuff in it and stuff, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's not hard to find those certificates. It's not.
I mean, I should be able to just flash my skin color and be like, give me my reparations.
Well, see, but that's the problem, Jalen. You've got people that came over here because the FBA's opened the book for the Caribbeans and the Africans. So basically, okay, we're 13% of the population, right? That people that identify as black skinned. But if you half of that, only half of us are FBA. See, so a lot of the Africans and the Caribbeans, oh yeah, we're black, whatever. No. You come from a different lineage. I'm not saying you're not black. You just come from a different lineage. So get your hand out my pocket, nigga. Get your hand out my pocket, right? because then, you know, if I went to Jamaica and I said, oh, they're getting reparations over there, would I get reparations because I'm black skinned over there? No. And that's what we got to kind of try to tell them. You know, yeah, you're black and stuff, but we don't have the same lineage. So, you know, having the skin is not, it's going to take a little bit more than just having the skin.
Right. And those particular people from other places in the world, different countries, they need to go after their governments. You know, there's a lot of places in Africa, Jamaica, they need to go after the royal family, you know, the British kingdom, if you will, because they are the monarchs over there and they got roots in slavery, right? So they need to go after their governments. They too are owed reparations. And they actually said King Charles III, you know, he's been beckoned upon to really look into reparations for the people that was enslaved by his kingdom, if you will. So yeah, it's not nobody's saying they don't deserve reparations. You just don't deserve it from over here. Hell, they don't want to give it to us. So more Negroes that jump in on it, then it's gonna be hard, right? It's, you know, and let's be honest, some of the people from elsewhere, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I say that unapologetically. Some of them are jumping in to convolute the conversation. Well, what about me? Because they know they don't really deserve reparations here in America, so they get in and try to muddy the waters with the conversation. So that's not cool, you know. Yeah, that's not cool. So, let me get this question here. Jay says, Sister Demetria, I am so happy that you are talking about what I had said because I wanted to stir up the pot so Black people can hear. Well, you did a good job there, stirring up the pot, asking the question about are we tired or, you know, I just don't know what to do, whatever the case is. But no, I mean, you know, we're gonna get out of here because I know I'll say Gerry Donovan. He's got somewhere to be. But just in closing, you know, again, my condolences to Jalen, you know, his whole family, people who really knew and loved Gerry. He will be missed tremendously. And I hate to deduce Gerry down to just his advocacy because I'm sure Gerry was so much more. You know, he didn't advocate, well, not 24 hours, maybe 23 hours he did, but, you know, he was something else other than Gerry the advocate, right? So, you know, my heart hurts for everybody who knew and loved him, and will miss him outside of his advocacy and just everything he has done. And so, Jalen, I want to give you a word, and Corliss, and then Donovan, then we'll get out of here.
I honestly have no words.
Okay, well, you know, I do understand, and you know, Jalen, please do not be a stranger. I would love for you to come back on here more often. We love the opinions of the young folks. You young to me, okay? Of the young folks.
I mean, I am 22, so yeah.
You a baby. You a baby. To me, you a baby. But you know, please, like I said, feel free to come back, join the show, hit me up if you ever want to come and co-host. I love bringing the young folks under my wing, and you know, this show is your show. So whenever you feel comfortable, whatever you want to talk about, please feel free to do that, and we will do just that. Miss Corliss.
All I want to say is, oh, okay. That just hit me out of nowhere.
That's all right, sister. That's all right, sister.
Step up, you guys. Like he did it all the way to the grave. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And you guys have to come together and pick up the pieces that are now left for you to complete whatever it is that you're here to do. Like, be an advocate, be a friend, be a voice for somebody. And it doesn't take you to be an advocate to be a voice. We all have voices. We all have different opinions. Gerry will be, missed greatly. Jalen, I don't even know what to say to you. I'll pray for you. And, like Demetria said, if you ever want to reach out, you are more than welcome. We're here. And that's That's all I have to say, guys.
And as for,
Donovan?
and as for me, Jalen, again, my condolences as well. Gary was a good friend. Loved his voice. You have a radio podcast voice yourself, so I hope that you will, do something fun podcasting wise, because you have a beautiful, soothing voice. Listening to that, but again, the war zone will go on, and I hope somebody will take up that mantle, because a lot of people followed that channel. They got a lot of information from it, and from time to time, hopefully me and Demetra could take up the mantle for a little while every now and then, and make sure that the war zone on the internet continues to go on, and put up great topics and do that. But he will definitely be missed. Great beats, one of the greatest lyricists to come out of Houston. I will give him that. I saw he sent me some of his writings. The man was a diabolical mad scientist when it came to music and his thoughts. So he will be missed, and there'll never be another one like him. But again, his memory will continue as long as we keep his advocacy out there.
Absolutely, y'all. So we thank y'all so much for coming on and helping with this show. It was difficult, especially for Jalen. Yes, Jalen is Gary's daughter. So anybody else who may be watching that for whatever reason that did not comment but are going through something, we send our deepest condolences. We love and appreciate you all. And I co-sign everything you guys said. Do not let this man's legacy be in vain, because the last thing we ever want to do is have people literally lay their life on the line and then forget about them and the work that they were doing after it's all said and done. That will be also one of our greatest sins, along with dying with gifts and talents. Another greatest sin is watching everybody else use their gifts and talents to the grave, and then we go on with life as usual. I do not think Gerry did everything that he did so people could just forget about it once he was no longer able to speak and advocate and rap, as Donovan said. Gerry was very dangerous on the mic, So there's a lot of things that he did in his life. Please do not let that go in vain. I'm begging of you. Like I said, I've never met Gerry in person, but I feel like I knew him enough to say that I don't think that he would want people just to go about their lives and forget about what he was doing. He might be all right with you forgetting about him, but don't forget about what he died doing. So that's all I got to say. I love and appreciate every last one of you guys. Hello, Miss Watson. Brother Samuel says, I miss it if it was covered as the cause of his departure. I don't know what happened to him. I just know that it happened sometime between this morning and today. I'm not sure. I'm sure, those who know him personally will disclose that. But yes, long live Gerry Wayne Monroe. So until next time, you guys be safe. Peace.